Greetings and welcome to Jefficho Films. This 1985 British sci-fi horror has Patrick Stewart in it. It has a high budget, so some top-notch special effects. It's also based on a novel called The Space Vampires. Well, let's review LifeForce. This movie starts out with great opening music that really draws you in, and I like the no-nonsense narration. It feels like classic storytelling.
The HMS Churchill, outward bound. On board a joint British-American space team. Their mission, to intercept and study the comet bearing Dr. Edmund Halley's name. The Churchill is on course for its rendezvous.
The Churchill is the first space shuttle with a Nerva engine, which is a constant propelling acceleration and gravity, and they're picking up something outside of Halley's comet. It's 150 miles long. They try to contact base, but they're out of range, so they retract the solar panels and guide their way in. 4 astronauts suit up in EV suits, and they go in, and it's like a just giant tunnel.
Giant bats.
Churchill, there must be hundreds of them.
Thousands.
They're gonna bring one of the bats back, and then this giant structure unfolds, and the interior of the ship is so cool, and Colonel Tom Carlson ain't afraid of shit, so he heads in, and there's these 3 glass cases, and they have 3 naked people, 2 guys and 1 girl.
Churchill, do you copy?
Tom is feeling lost, like he has some connection towards the girl and he can't stop staring at her. It can't just be because she's naked, though I would understand. They jump 30 days and they head back, and they brought all 3 containers with them and a sample of the bat. I hope they studied the comet, because I mean that was the point of your whole trip. They arrive in Earth's orbit, but nobody can get a hold of them. They send the Columbia up there to investigate, and it soft docks with her. Once they get aboard, it looks like everything's been burnt and gutted, so they search the ship. They find a bunch of corpses that look mighty well done, and then they find the containers of 3 naked people in the tug bay. How fitting. There's a meeting at the Aerospace Research Center in London. They've got 3 aliens, and they intend to study them. The news report tells us Halley's Comet used to be the harbinger of evil. The security guy, who I think I would normally call a pervert, but I think he's drawn into the examination room. He goes up and he touches her, and it wakes her up. So she gets up, she takes his helmet off, and she kisses him. And you know you have chemistry when there's electricity. A storm hits as she just sucks him dry, and Bukowski shows up, finds him and her connected, and she tells him to use her body, and then she kisses him. And then Dr. Hans shows up and finds Bukowski on the ground, but still alive. They call security and 3 guards find her in the main lobby, but she uses some electrical powers to take her out, and then I guess she couldn't find a door. Dr. Hans watches her leave, and then Colonel Kane shows up, and Bukowski takes him to the dead guard, and he explains to him she has an overwhelming sexual energy. An escape pod from the Churchill is missing, and Bukowski is not feeling well. Dr. Hans studies death, and he thinks that a life force is conserved even after death in the body, and that she drained energy. The guards watching the other 2 aliens are faced with explosions, and when they stand up, they just start shooting them, which seems ineffective, so they use grenades, and that just puts them into pieces. So, good job. They do an autopsy on the guard, and this is so cool. He sucks the life out of one of the doctors and restores his own, but he appears to be scared and unsure of what's going on. Dr. Hans says they should secure anybody else that might be affected. They find a dead girl draining in the park, and they send her body back. The guard 2 hours later is reverting back into the zombie-like dead state he was before. The pathologist is not doing well. After they've been fed on, if they don't feed, they turn into dust. And the girl from the park comes alive, and it's some amazing practical effects. They think they've located the escape pod entering Texas, and they find a bearded Tom Carlson, and he visits them. Tom fills him in on what happens, finding the spacecraft, the bodies, and when they got back, the crew felt drained, and they all started to die one by one. Rollins actually destroyed the radio before he was found drained the next day. Everybody was being influenced, except for Tom. He's the only one to survive, because he was the first to see her.
What's the matter, Jefficho?
I don't know, Tom. I feel drained.
Do you? I feel invigorated. Okay.
He didn't want to expose the Earth to this danger, so he set the ship to burn, and then he burnt the bat before he left. He felt like he didn't want to leave though, that leaving her behind was the hardest thing he had ever done. He takes a nap and Kane watches him on camera. Bukowski says the alien ship is now on course with Earth, and I see me and Tom have similar dreams. She's giving him a life and says that he's taking it, and then they make love with crazy red flashes and screams. I think she loves him. However, when I wake up from my dreams of making love to a woman, I'm not screaming like Tom. Everyone comes in and he tells them that he has a mental connection to her, so they hypnotize him and he can see her. She's in a new body now, trying to lure men and siphon life energy from them, but not so much to make them dead so that she can go undetected. He can sense inside of the girl's mind and he gives them the license plate number and her name, Ellen. NASA is watching the ship as Hans examines some skin tissue and a creepy sergeant shows up. King gets an update on the girl and the man she partially drained. And then we meet Dr. Armstrong, who's played by Patrick Stewart.
This is the nurse's house. Ellen Donaldson is number 5.
Thank you.
Shouldn't I come up and introduce you?
I'd rather you didn't.
Come along, Dr. Armstrong. You and I have several matters to discuss. Come along.
And Tom and Kane talk to the girl, but she denies knowing anything.
Despite appearances, this woman is a masochist, an extreme masochist. She wants me to force the name out of her. Do you want to stay? Otherwise, wait outside!
Not at all. I am a natural voyeur.
He forces her to let the girl go, and then she kisses him and passes out. He got an image of the person that she jumped bodies to from the mental hospital, so he goes there, but he suspects Stewart is actually the guy. So they trick him, and they inject him with this fluid and hold him down. Tom questions a half-unconscious Stewart, and she talks through him, which is freaking awesome.
What do you want from me?
I love you.
What are the bird creatures on the ship?
Our bodies are unimportant. As you and your men have approached in your ship, we change them. For you.
We learn they can become whatever they want and speak their language. She has a hold over Tom. She kisses him before escaping, and everybody just gets thrown around. One of the guys' necks gets broken, and Tom and Kane think that they're spreading. The vampires going everywhere. Hans is talking to Tom and Kane and explains that he had to kill the guard, that the two creatures transferred to the guards. He also says that the legend of vampires probably came from these creatures, that they visited the Earth before. And then this awesome thing happens, and I don't know how to describe it other than you'll probably never see it again in your life. Tom says that she's in London and back in her body. He also admits that he's the one that sabotaged the Churchill, that he's completely compromised, and that he's in love on another level you've never known. It terrified him, but he let her out of the case, and she shared her energy with him, and then she drained all his men except for him, because she cares about him. Large areas of London are on fire, martial law is in effect, the virus is spreading, and there is chaos in the streets. Tom and Kane get to the Prime Minister, but he's acting weird, and he calls his secretary inside the room, so they go in there, and he's training her. Probably not the first time with the Prime Minister. She has her own army, and they chase him, and so Tom and Kane get to the helicopter, and he takes out some of her army. They are forced to land and kept in quarantine until Kane argues, and then they get out. We see that the ship is in orbit and it is just sucking up all this energy because she is draining it and it's being fed into the ship. The male vampire is just causing all this mayhem. Tom says that she wants the part of him that she gave to him, so he steals a vehicle, and then Kane commandeers a vehicle rather politely before heading off after him. He can see where she is, and even though everything's all crowded, he manages to get inside. Kane gets to the Space Research Center and he finds Hans, who's surprisingly alright. He says that Bukowski is dead, but he's not Hans. He mentions that the girl is in the cathedral, and then he attacks him. So Kane shoots him and lights him on fire. Hans had a sword that Kane takes with him, and then he goes outside and finds out his car's burnt before he's chased by hordes of people. Tom finds her in the cathedral, and she says that he was meant to find her and bring her to Earth. Kane is chased through the streets as life forces are being drained as blue energy and just going out throughout the sky. He gets to the cathedral and he finds the male vampire. Kane kills him. He turns into a bat and explodes, so sword confirmed works. Kane inside the cathedral is looking down and sees Carlson making love to her. He's questioning himself because his feelings were put inside of him, and he calls out to him, and then Tom looks up to him and reaches out and he throws him the sword and he stabs her and himself. The roof of the cathedral just blows up and Tom and her are transported up to the ship, which flies off following the comet, which comes back every 75 years. This had a budget of $25 million and a box office of 11.6, which is ridiculous because this movie is awesome. It's probably just the time it came out in. Director Tobe Hooper actually did Poltergeist, or was that Spielberg? Because that's the rumor. Writer Dan O'Brien did Alien, Blue Thunder, Return of the Living Dead, Total Recall, and Screamers. So he's accomplished. I really enjoyed Steve Railsback as Colonel Tom Carlson, and Peter Firth as Colonel Colin Kane was pretty awesome too. And although it was a smaller role, I really did enjoy seeing Patrick Stewart in this. Kind of brought it all home for me. And Mathilda May did a great job in this, even though she, was stuck being naked the whole time. In the end, LifeForce is an awesome movie. It is a cult classic for a reason. It is fun. I love that it got a big budget. $25 million back then was pretty big, and you can see it in the practical effects, seeing stuff that you haven't seen since. It's a lot of fun. I totally recommend you watch it. Well, as always, thanks for watching.